Hello and welcome to Blue Otter League's Diamond Otter Talk this week. I am Isaac. I'll be your host for tonight. Alongside me are two players that are going up against each other in a different series today that won't be streamed. And my fellow co-caster, Alt Battery, but the players we're to are Nahor, the support for Grown Boys Click, and Basting, the top laner for Akuma Sabers. Nahor, and you feel free to
Hey,
introduce yourself.
hi, I'm Nahor.
That it? Anything else
There
you
we
want to
go.
add, or
No, just
no? Perfect.
yeah.
Well, Basting, feel free to introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Basting. I'm the best player on the best team.
Nice.
Yeah, fair enough. I'll take that. That's what the Blue Otter stats say, okay? They say that this guy's the best, so the stats can't lie. Stats never lie.
Well, the best player on the best team. Well, we'll have to see how that influences our predictions, which will be our first segment. Today's we're moving into here, and we got a list of them coming through. And since we do have two players on Akuma Sabers and Grown Boys Click, I think that's where we're going to start. Nahor, obviously backing themselves. How is it that you are going to prove us all wrong with your Grown Boys Click prediction?
Um, I think Basing said it correctly. I think he is probably the best player. Not on the best team though, but best player in this league. But I think that the rest of his team will have to prove themselves today. I think we have probably the best mid jungle, and yeah.
Fair enough. I mean, Basing, I'll get your kind of opinion on this in a little bit, but I did want to ask Nahor, like, what has been the prep like going into this week? Is there anything special you guys do? I think, obviously, when looking at Akuma Sabers, a lot of people, whether it's in the Discord or otherwise, have been kind of big upping Akuma as the #1 seed coming into the tournament. So, how do you feel like? Is there going to be anything different going into this week?
Well, yeah, we do a lot of prep. We look at what they do for draft and their champion pools, etc. I think, I mean, if you just look at damage charts, most of the damage does come from base things, and he's usually playing on a bruiser. That's why I say he's probably the best player in this league, and probably carrying this team. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess Akuma looks good, but they don't look that good. I mean, I'm looking forward to playing them today, to be honest.
I was watching some VODs. Might have to agree on some of that, but Basting, now we'll give you kind of the stage on this one. Like we were saying, you're on the best team in the tournament. Some people maybe on Final Boss Diamond might disagree, but how are you guys feeling about your prep coming into this week, and I think just overall the run you might go on for the tournament?
I mean, I think we just take like each week with the same amount of prep for the most part. I think we're more just looking to just see like what's feeling good for the most part, and just like not too worried about performing in regular season. Magic happens in playoffs anyway.
Yeah.
And I think we should be the de facto favorite just off the bat. I mean, we're the defending champion. I think we haven't dropped a single game, and we won last split, so there's not a lot of reason. I think we're ranked under #1 right now.
Yeah.
I can see why other people want to put their own teams above, but there's not a lot of merit to that. And I mean, I just gotta say thank you, Nahor, for agreeing with me, man. That's gonna go long. I'm gonna take that clip. It's gonna be in the team chat. It's gonna be pinned.
Oh my god.
I mean, you're a good player, man. I respect that.
I think that you too.
Don't worry, he's not teleporting bottom for you, okay? So you don't have to worry about the ward brush coming through.
We might have to do a lane swap on them.
We'll see.
Oh.
We'll see.
Giving away strategies early. That's bull move, Cotton. We'll see if that plays off. But before we move on to any other predictions we have made with the Elysium Ares and Omega Goobers series, that one was rescheduled to be played on Monday and has already been played. Elysium Sabers. Whoa, mixing it up. Elysium Ares won that 1-2-1 in what personally I would have considered a little bit of a surprise. So I would at first at least our two players to hear his thoughts on that, if they have anything on that.
Yeah, I can absolutely talk. I think that is a absolutely massive upset. I think I would have never expected for Omega to really drop a series outside of facing us. I think Omega is just the next best team. I think Flame is really good. And I think it's sort of part of the reason why they did end up losing that series is because they sort of just forced their best player onto tanks. So I think it's more a hiccup than them being a poor team. I think it's just a bad prep or a bad just strategy coming into it.
Okay, fair enough. Nahor, do you have any
What are we
outstanding
talking
opinions?
about?
We're talking about the Elysium Aries upset over Omega Goobers.
Oh, um, I honestly don't have any opinions.
That's fair. Look, that's okay. I'm kind of withholding my opinions just because I'm supposed to be getting the VOD for that. So as soon as I can like go through it and kind of peel over like what's going on in that game, I'll feel more confident about what I kind of want to say about that team. But I just remember coming into the week, a lot of other teams and other players had been talking about Omega Goobers as a pretty strong team here in the Diamond League. So I am interested to see how Elysium Aries kind of pull the rabbit out of the hat. And hey, if this is the start of a run, then then we're gonna look back on this and say, man, that really wasn't like a surprise. They may just be that good.
All right, so we're going to move on to the next series that I wanted to kind of cover, which is XG Leviathan and Mars and the Four Words, which one that we're all a little bit of split on, and well, I'll send it over to the players first onto their decision. Actually, Nahor, why back my opinion on XG Leviathan taking this series? Why do you think that is?
I think they've been scrimming a lot. I think they added good support. I'm not very hot. It's not really compliments for XG. I just think the other team's not very good at all.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All right. Well, basting, since you picked Mars and the Four Wards, why do you have them in your corner?
I do like the roster overall. I think Mars is a pretty good player. I think the name is pretty true to it. I think for the most part, you just play around Mars and you'll win those games. I mean, you just give him like his control mage-esque picks and maybe an A2, and I think he's all good. And I think actually just has a bit of like roster instability. I mean, I had them fairly low ranked because they've just been like changing up rosters, and I think it was not great to begin with. Like I love my boy Rover, but I think the roster around him isn't that strong. So I think I just have Mars and Four Wards just as a stronger team, so I'm just going to stick with that in my prediction.
Okay, okay.
I like. So we watched their first game up against Akuma. I will also say, XG are kind of a victim to like their own schedule. Their first week is Akuma. Their second week is Final Boss Diamond. Their third week going in right is up against Mars, which should be a team that is closer to them relatively in the standings than those two. And from the game that we saw from Akuma in the first week, I was not very like I didn't see anything that gave me that like wow or do I see this kind of going somewhere. The fact that Idris is playing really well is nice, but that's not always going to be a consistent factor in every single one of their games. And like Basing was saying, I think when we do see teams with large amounts of players kind of like rotating in and out, it makes it a little difficult to kind of see what the true strength of a team can be. And honestly, I think that their drafts last week did not give me much. I got to watch a couple of POVs. They were up against FBD, and I think they got absolutely dog walked, even with a little bit of trolling from Zaki on Viego. So I am kind of hoping to see something maybe a little bit more out of XG, and this is more so out of like Mars should be able to kind of sweep it up and take it home.
Well, I'm going to say I'm a big fan of the Idris Koyesh bot lane, especially last season. They were like arguably the best bot lane in Blue Water Diamond, and as you mentioned already, they had a really tough first 2 weeks. So, I mean, I think if you are XG, would have definitely liked to have taken at least a few games there in the first 2 weeks, but. I mean, after Akuma Sabers and Final Boss Diamond, it gets only gets easier from there. But moving on, our next series, Kediment and TPF Tempest, two fairly maybe not kind of mixed teams in all honesty in terms of opinion. There's a lot of variability there. So I'd like to at least pick apart your thoughts on these two teams. Nahor, actually Basting, you should go first this time. Let's shake it up.
I'll be honest, I don't really remember these rosters too well.
Don't worry. I have not seen a Kediment game all season yet, so don't worry. I've dodged them on the VODs.
I just know they had Zhao PP, and now they don't. I just remember that I thought the roster was better. Oh, they have Jolts. And I remember I played against Jolts like a year or two ago, and he absolutely fucking dog walked my ass. But like, I don't know. I just know him as a GP one trick, and I don't see him play GP anymore. So I don't know what happened, but I have a lot of respect for Jolts, so that's why I've kept him in.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, Nahor, this is honestly a little bit of a surprise from me with you picking TPF Tempest, considering you guys pretty handedly beat them last week, 2-0. So what did you see from these two games to where you think that they're going to take it off Kediment?
Well, we actually we played both these teams the first 2 weeks.
Oh, yep. Okay.
I think the first week Kediment took a game off of us, but I mean a lot of it was just that was like our first week playing together the team. They didn't really seem very impressive. It was mostly just our mistakes. I know you talked high about Jolts, but in that series we were a little surprised. I mean, we're like the Masters players playing a bunch of tanks, expecting the rest of this team to carry, and I don't know. Nothing really surprised me, or they weren't very good. Like there's no real carry on that team, I would say. And with Tempest, we've actually been scrimming them a decent amount. And I think they've been getting a lot better throughout it. I think they moved their top laner to support, which is Chief, and I think he's actually a very good support. I'm not really sold on Joshua being their ADC, but he's doing his job, and I think the rest of the team is okay. So again, I don't really expect any of these teams to be that good later down the line, but that's my choosing is Tempest.
Yeah, so one of the things that I like about at least listening to Tempest was how jungle driven this team was, at least when Carbill was playing. When they brought Lucas Moore, it was definitely like a kind of a last minute substitution, so I don't think there was much to take from that game. Every week I watch TPF, at least so far, has been like they're like maybe 2 or 3 steps too late on things, or they make like a really bad call and it just kind of like spirals the rest of the game. I'm probably going to be a TPF believer for like the next 2 weeks, and depending on how they actually turn out games, we'll see how my opinion changes. But I really liked how forward and kind of aggressive this team looked and kind of played when Carbill was playing. And similar to what you were saying about Joshua, I think he's okay. I think he's kind of in some tough situations sometimes with how he's able to communicate with the rest of his team. So I'm looking forward to how TPF can maybe use this win against Kediment, if they're able to pull it off, in a way that, I don't know, kind of springboards them. Because I do like how this team plays. Unfortunately, they make me sad because they're like, it's like 1 step forward, 3 steps back. We like run it down a little bit, or our AD carry gets caught. Like our jungler's just like running in using all his spells and then dies instantly. And I'm like, why? Why do we do this, guys? Why do you hurt me? I want to be a fan.
All right, so to the final series that is going to be played this week, the one that will be streamed here on Blue Otter League is Art of War Esports versus Final Boss Diamond, and I don't think to anybody's surprise, really, we've got a sweep of Final Boss Diamond predictions here, considering how strong they've been. So Nahor, if you got any words on Final Boss Diamond for us?
I haven't really seen a game yet, but I mean their roster looks pretty good. And they've been dominating their games, so.
To be fair, their schedule has been pretty easy. Like, if they played against Elysium 2-0, they played against XG last week, and if you're just looking at standings, those are 2 of the worst teams in the league. So at least for right now, I want to see what Final Boss can do against some better competition, and we'll see. Their future schedule is maybe a little bit more fun, in my opinion. So obviously they go up against Art of War today. Next week, actually going against Grown Boys Click, and week 6, if I'm correct, is up against Akuma. So those are 2 matches I'm going to be looking forward to, as they are currently 2 of our early front runners right now for the league.
All right. Well, Basting, if you have anything to add on to that, now's your chance.
I don't think I've really much. Just based off of stats and post games, Grown Boys does look like a good team. I don't think they're the best team, but I think they're like towards the higher end of the table, definitely. So I think they are going against a lower end team. So I think this is a pretty clear expected victory.
Okay.
I actually have Art of War making playoffs, so I'll take away that.
Do I? Wait, I actually need to check. Do I? I can just check.
I'm an Art of War esports merchant. But besides that, even with that, I don't like the bottom team sort of statement. But we'll move on to our actually Ulk. I didn't mean. I'm sorry, I cut you off. Do you have anything to say on that?
No, I was actually asking: is playoffs top 8 or top 6?
It is top 6.
Oh. Do I have Art of War making it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have them 6. Okay, nice. All right, we'll see that. We'll see that. We'll see
Art
that.
of War enjoyers. Let's go.
I
Sun
do just
Tzu's
say-
happy.
With
What's
top
up?
6, I think Art of War is a playoff team.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right.
I think there's
Oh,
5 or
nice,
6
go ahead.
though. No, I'll get.
Yeah,
I'm done now.
that's where I have.
Yeah,
we'll
that's
see.
about
We'll
where
see.
I
We
am.
actually have power rankings, which will be up on the screen. But I have them as making playoffs. They just scrape on in.
I have them right out.
I actually interpreted power rankings as like who's good right now and not necessarily
The
as
same.
like
I
predictions.
mean, sure, yeah, but like if we were to start playoffs like right now, like right after this week, this is where I feel this is where we are.
Oh, right. Well, so a few things I wanted to point out. Basting, a little bit of variance here within our top 2. You have Mars and the 4 Wards marked as your second best team currently in Blue Waters Diamond League. Why are you so bullish on them? I'd just like to pick apart that a bit.
I just think I had them. So I had a pretty like clear and concise top 3, where I went us, Omega, Mars, and then what I've been saying for most of the split is if any team besides those top 3 win the league, I think it's a pretty big upset. And I'm still gonna stick by that, so that's why I have them 2. I dropped Omega to 4 because they're lost this week. Because it is, what do I think of like their strength now? So I think that just moves up Mars to number 2 de facto.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Trying to see if there's any like big upsets in terms of like where people. I think the biggest one is just literally just Mars, because if you look like aggregately, Basting, you have them 2nd. I have them 4th. Nahor has them at 7th. Isaac has them at 5th. So it's. I think it's funny how disparate kind of like we all have them. We're generally kind of like either at the top somewhere. We have some in the middle. We have one. We're actually like a perfect bell curve of where Mars should be. But I mean, genuinely speaking, like, so Basing, you obviously think that they're probably going to be a top 3 team, barring Omega Goobers like just straight up running it down for the rest of the split. For the group here, where do we generally think Mars should be? Like, do we think this is more of a 4th place team? Actually, I think I should just directly put this to Nahor. Why do we have this team at 8th?
To be honest, I don't really know these teams.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, I probably could put it above Tempest and put them there, but I think all those bottom 4 or 5 are the same.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah. Any other like trying to point out any like major disparities of any other teams, but
Okay,
it's all a bit...
let's do this, Isaac. Now,
Yeah.
you would now have the stage. We're gonna give you the mic on this one. You have to give the motivational speech for all the Blue Water Diamond viewers and everybody who's watching. Why is Grown Boys Click number 1? Well, what sets your team apart? What makes it so that you think come end of regular split, you're going to be number 1. I think this is the podium is yours.
I think if you guys are ready to watch someone either int or carry, you just watch Drid.
Yep.
I think he's a very good player, but he's also a zoomer. I think he's like 16, 17 years old in college. So I think he could be very, very good and probably carry a lot of these tough matches. I think if we did lose to Akuma, I would think it'd be today and not later on in the playoffs. I think we're still growing as a team, but I have very high expectations.
Okay. I mean, fair enough. We got to talk about it last week on the show. I was like, Drid, you're making so many good decisions. And then he's just like, I'm Hecarim. I'm ulting into 4 people under the inhibitor. And I'm going to lose the game. I'm like, okay, nice, man. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
I have a quick question. Is this the Akuma team the same team as the team they won last time, or is it different?
Same exact roster.
Okay.
I mean Valdir's in.
Well, yeah, it's just Valdir for Tomb. So I mean, it's a pretty horizontal movement. I'll just say.
This is like a separate thing. There needs to be a segment on updates about Toomey's shiny Turtwig, and like how his retirement's going.
I don't know. He hasn't spoken or posted anything about the shiny Turtwig.
We need a shiny. We need a
Toomey in the team chat today. He was making cookies. So
okay, yeah. Look, that's actually pretty good. But I don't know anything about the shiny Turtwig. I'm gonna probably need an update on that.
I'm trying to get you one now.
Okay. What were we talking? There was someone who was saying something beforehand. I think we were.
About Drid?
I totally forgot. Drid.
Yeah.
I totally forgot. All I remember is that guy absolutely made my life living hell last week. That guy was a professional sprinter, but he was very important to your guys' wins at the end of the day. So.
Imagine playing with him.
Don't have to.
I was about to say I'd rather not.
Don't have to. I have enough. I'm a very demanding AD carry when I play, so I already am like I very much understand what it's like to tell your team we're doing this, or I will ruin the game. Either you're behind me on this or you're not. That's just how it goes. I think for most teams that's usually like an okay strategy. Either way, I think that these power rankings are about. I think what we should expect, and I think what the viewers should expect at home for people who are watching, and especially for people who kind of keep up on this league. I don't think there's anything that's too super egregious. I think the one thing, aside from the Mars being all over the place, is the highest placement of TPF. Nahor putting them at least making playoffs, which as a temporary TPF fan, I'm happy about, but. We'll see what their kind of trajectory is. We already kind of heard some of your thoughts on what this team is kind of looking like and if they're able to gear up into a playoff form. But we are really early into the season. We're only into week 3, so you got a lot of games still to play.
Yeah, and so another segment that we had last week were teams to watch. I had XG Leviathan. Personally, I kind of covered this a little bit, but I think their match against Mars and the Four Words will be a really good litmus test as to the actual strength of their team, having played a tough matchup. So I don't know if our 2 players. We'll start with Nahor. Any matchup you're looking forward to? I would encourage maybe not making it your own, but it is an option.
Tell Isaac. I don't care what you just said. I'm just gonna make it my own match.
Okay.
Easy.
I think I want to see how Art of War does. I think they just added a new jungler in Meta Shift. I've done Meta Shift for a while. I'm kind of curious how well they do, or how bad they do.
Nice. Okay.
And then I'm gonna say weird series, but I think the Kediment TPF, because I think that's sort of gonna set somewhat of a standard or a curve for some of those like border playoff teams.
Yep.
Because I think both of those 2 will be fighting for that 5th and 6th seed, and I think the head-to-head win would definitely help early on in the season. I think it sort of sets a standard for the teams.
I was actually about to say the same thing. I think Kediment and TPF are kind of the height requirement to get into the ride, right? Like they're going to be like, you need to be this good to be able to make the cutoff for playoffs. And like you're saying, the head-to-head could be one reason why one of these teams doesn't even make it into top 6, right? Like that head-to-head, like you could be very close in points, you could be very close in like schedule, but that right there, this match, we might be looking back at this in 6 weeks and say, oh wow, that loss actually is why X team doesn't make it into playoffs. So I'm kind of looking forward to this, and I think especially if I'm able to get my hands on the raffle files for those, I want to see what Kediment looks like, because I've still yet to really get a good look at them.
Well, we will have to wait and see until then. And since the time draws near for our series to begin for week 3, before we close it out and get ready for the Art of War Esports and Final Boss Diamond series for myself and Alk Battery to cast, are there any other any shouts, anything you want to say, any shoutouts or any final thoughts? Basting, you go first.
I just wanna. I'll shout out my team. You know, Sabers. I'll shout out my coach. So Ratchet, there's your shout out. I don't know if he's lurking in Twitch chat or not. And then I'll shout out my boy Flame and Rover. Flame and Rover, my boys. Love both of them.
Awesome.
Rover's an Udyr merchant, so.
Oh yeah, that tracks.
All right, and Nahor, any final thoughts or shout outs or what have you?
Shout out to Zol. He kicked me from Dorado SF to Toxic. Happy back, baby.
Hey, that's what we like to see.
All right. And anything else before we cover just to cover our bases?
Good luck, Bastings. I look forward to a good series.
Go with me. Let's make this one.
Awesome. All right, so I will say, Basting, Nahor, cudgel thy brains no longer, at least over Otter Talk, and thank you for coming in. And with that, I do believe that will conclude Otter Talk, Otter Talk's Diamond League for week 3. Don't go anywhere though if you are tuning into this live, because after this short break, we will have the Art of War Esports and Final Boss Diamond series coming up for you, casted by myself and Alk Battery. So yeah, don't go anywhere, and we'll see you then. Have a good day. And we are live for Game 1 between Art of War Esports and Final Boss Diamond. I'm Isaac. Alongside me is Ulk Battery here in Blue Otter's Diamond League in Week 3. You get Sarah Faces now after Otter Talk. Hello.
Yay, we're back. Hi, everybody. So we're already kind of getting into draft. If you're unfamiliar, we have Art of War Esports going against Final Boss Diamond. So far, from what we've seen from both of these teams, coming in, we have Art of War, who is currently 1-1 in their series so far, and Final Boss being 2-0, which I think is really impressive so far. This is going to be a nice string of wins if they can pick up a win today, because then next week they're going to be going up against Grown Boys Click, and then after that TPF Tempest. So if they can string along 5 wins back to back, that almost assuredly locks them for playoffs at the very least, especially in a 9-week split. Getting 5 wins is typically the barrier of entry to be able to make it into a top 6. So looking forward to what they can put up, especially when we are expecting, I think, realistically, Final Boss should be able to take this series pretty handedly.
Yeah, I mean, most of us had them on as number 2 in our power rankings for those who may have missed Otter Talk. So it's not too bit of surprise that they are one of the strongest teams coming in. However, Art of War did manage to pick up 1 win in their first week, and they're also moving in Metashift as a jungler, who a lot of people seem to be somewhat pretty bullish on, actually. So perhaps you can enlighten us a little bit about Metashift, perhaps?
I did not know this guy was coming in, so I'm going to have to be picking apart some of his solo queue.
Honestly, I didn't either.
That's okay. That's okay. We both got blindsided during Otter Talk. So, interestingly enough, I think the Viego ban is really, really good coming out from Art of War. When we've seen Final Boss on red side, every single game from them so far has been Viego bot lane. So they picked a Ziggs, or they've picked an Ashe, something that's a little bit more supportive and allows for the Viego to have a little bit of an easier time with being able to get resets and all the like. Either way, for this team, I want to see how they're going to continue to become more of a jungle-focused team, where they've had Shaktus on these tank top laners, with Zaki kind of playing these little bit of carry-oriented junglers with 2 games of Viego, a Kayn game, and a Taliyah game. Now, from the bottom lane, we've been seeing more and more of Seraphine start to appear in the bottom lane, thanks to over in America's Challengers. They've been having their tournament run with all of the Tier 2 international stuff, and more Seraphine has been popping up. So I love this as an answer into Jhin, which we've also seen from Art of War. Almost all of their blue side games has been first pick Jhin. So pretty interesting to see, especially as he is the most picked champion currently in the league, and he has a 44% win rate. So I'm interested to see kind of if maybe Art of War can be, the difference maker, bring it maybe to a slightly more positive win rate.
I really wish it was 9 games of Jhin, because that's that 40, because the 44% is truncated, but 44.4. But if it was out of 9 games, it would have been 4 wins with a 44.444 repeating percentage.
Not everything can be that nice.
But yeah, not everything can be that perfect for Jhin, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But just as a little funny math sort of thing going on there, is Maokai's the pick of Art of War. But one thing I'm interested in seeing from Final Boss Time is if they go topside Gwen. Ooh, that's a slightly different. Honestly, with Final Boss Diamond, with how much the Shaktus, well, he's only played Gragas and Mundo so far, I'd be curious to see if that's going into the hands of Jockey, and it does definitely seem like it could be a Jockey kind of champion there in Gwen.
I wonder what now is going to be kind of the response here, because we've been seeing some Gwen jungle or Gwungle. If I pull this up on my sheet real quick, so who are the people that are playing Gwen jungle in this league? So there's a lot of bans. There's a lot of Gwen bans, I'll be honest. Is there anybody actually playing this? Am I wrong?
Not that I know.
No, there is one. There is one, and it was on Akuma. It was Coffee Beans in the first game of the split, actually. So
that's right, yeah.
A lot of
supportive
supportive
I casted
pieces.
That one.
Yeah, there you go. A lot of supportive pieces already here for Final Boss. You have the Seraphine, who really loves to enable some of the melee range kind of carries, and so Gwen definitely fits into that role. Nautilus to provide engage. I would like to probably see a little bit more damage. They're probably going to need someone that's able to actually hold frontline here. And right now, Art of War don't have a ton of damage. Jin eventually will be able to get there, but being able to use the Hollowed Mist on Gwen makes it impossible for you to actually auto-attack her, and Leona and Maokai can supplement some of that damage, but really aren't the champions to really get it over the hump. So from here on, I want to see what else they're going to be going for. They have been a team that typically likes to go for lower range, less damage. So if you think of stuff like the Nasa that they've been playing, you also had the Yone and the Shen from one of their first games of the split. So more for me, especially with a new jungler coming in, what are we going to be seeing from a team that is kind of running a very similar roster to what we got last week, where they had a mid and top lane, basket and knives bot lane? Is a mid going to be getting a carry in the top lane because he played 2 games of Akali and Kennen? Fortunately, both of those were losses, especially the Kennen game. The Kennen game, he got absolutely rolled. So I want to see what damage we're going to be getting out of Art of War.
Ahri's not exactly the... I mean, she does do some decent damage, but still, because considering how kind of low damage their comp is so far, I'd be curious to see, I mean, because R was open, I was interested to see if Smolder would have been picked, but Camille's being hovered. I don't know if I'm exactly bullish on this Camille pick if they do go with it, as it does tick down and does get locked in, so... I mean, because
they just need someone.
Maybe, I don't know.
Like, you need some kind of AD top laner at this point because there's not a lot of options. Camille is probably a slightly better version of Renekton, but she obviously excels at a lot of kind of different things. This Jace here for final boss, more than likely going to be going mid, so now we get to see what Shaktus is going to be picking up in top side. There are a lot of options. I think he can yet again go back towards the Gragas if he really wants to, has the Mundo, but instead we're actually going for the set. So final boss, really encompassing around this Seraphine. Gwen is going to be a very important part of how they win fights, but we need to see if their bot lane's able to put up, and this is actually, I think, more of a statement game for Final Boss, putting Walt on something that's a little bit more supportive, away from maybe a champion like Ashe, who can kind of be best of both worlds in terms of damage and utility. Here now, he is going to be mostly playing to try to empower a lot of the other carries on the team. And what does Shaktus look like on a bruiser that isn't necessarily known for some of the more tanky qualities that we've been talking about? This is, I think, going to be a very interesting game, and what we see from Final Boss, I think, potentially is going to improve their standings coming into like next week if we're doing power rankings and all the like.
Yeah, you say not very tanky, but I mean, I've seen some pretty insane haymakers. Man. Yeah, I don't know. I've seen
it's a great 1v1 matchup.
I've seen that
fantastic.
shield. I've seen that shield go from basically 0 health and then like extend past his health bar. So I mean, but no, I mean overall, I do have to agree. Shaktus finally on a different champion, despite Mundo and Gragas being open. Obviously, we will be getting a third champion out of the Shaktus, and perhaps can beat the I guess criticism, the right word that we had of the Shaktus beforehand, but we'll have to wait and see. But on the other side of Art of War, it's a bit... I haven't seen Camille played in years, man. To be completely honest, I don't know how she really fits in.
So Camille is fine here. I think that she kind of serves as an out for Art of War. If their lanes do go stable, it allows for them to play on the side lane. The thing that I want to see from Art of War is how they're actually able to move their top and jungle throughout the top side of the map. So for what's going to happen in this game, Jhin is going to be a champion that shouldn't really be able to gain priority against Seraphine, and so it's up to Camille in this instance for a mid to really take it to Shaktus, but this matchup is not fun. This is super difficult for Camille. She can't stand in the wave. Typically, a good trade pattern for Camille is just being able to slowly whittle away at an opponent using her W, but when that's not available, when you're playing up against someone like Set, it becomes very difficult, and it's similar to every single matchup versus Fiora. It's who is going to use their defensive ability that can negate the other's crowd control. So for Renekton versus Fiora, you're really waiting on the timing so you can try to riposte the Renekton W. When you're playing Camille versus Set, you're now looking for, can I facebreaker him out, or can I get a really big haymaker that can really turn the tide? And coming into side lanes, you're going to be kind of hard pressed. The same thing I was saying about earlier for Art of War, they lack a lot of damage, so they need their top side, they need this Ahri and Camille combo to get off to the ground ground running. Otherwise, this game is going to putter out very fast for them, and they're going to run into a brick wall.
I mean, honestly, it's great having you as a color caster, so like thorough, but it kind of just that's pretty much all the bases covered, unless if you have anything else to add. Alt battery before we send it to spectator delay.
I just hate this Maokai Ari pick. Like, I get it. They're really strong junglers. I think individually it's probably good. I think the game is just really doomed when we have all this set up, and now it's kind of like we're waiting for Ari and Camille to do something. Now, I will say Ari has been getting a lot of buffs. She recently just got a couple of buffs to her Charm as well to some of her other abilities. We've been seeing Charm second max as something as a potential rising force. I don't think it's going to be super impactful, especially with where Cosmic Drive is as an item. I'm interested to see what kind of build we're going to be getting out of Ari this game, although I don't think it's going to be changing all that much. There has been some adaptations between whether or not you're going to be playing with Lichbane or if you're just going for Ludens and Cosmic Drive and you're just trying to make sure you have as much uptime for all your abilities. This comes down to execution. If Art of War can actually pull this composition off, final boss, the things that they kind of struggle with is actually being able to start fights and being able to take space. So they're going to have to pull set down out of wherever they want, and it's up to Art of War to be able to play the map a little bit better than their opponents, and for Ari, what they're actually able to accomplish in mid lane. If, for whatever reason, we see Fire Mana able to leave the lane as Ari, make a roam down bottom lane, dive the Seraphine Nautilus, you're mostly just taking them out of the range of experience and gold, and you're playing for gold on your Jhin and Leona so that it makes it much harder. Once they're able to get flashes, Leona should be able to find engage. I just think it's so hard to play this time. I mean, Seraphine just kind of owns this draft, like, instantaneously for me. It's the first pick on red side, but it just, every single champion from Art of War does not want to play into Seraphine, stylistically.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, that, I think with that, I mean, I don't have anything to add on top of that. That's just about everything. So I believe with that, we will send it to a spectator delay. But when we come back, we will have loaded onto the rift between Art of War Esports and Final Boss Diamond. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a few short moments. And we have loaded onto the Rift for Game 1 between Ardvor Esports and Final Boss Diamond. And straight away, Final Boss Diamond perhaps trying to find something in the mid lane immediately. Fire Mana going to get a bit of return damage through, and straight away, procs coming through that does no knowledge of death being there, and it's going to be Ordoro slowed up and stunned, and there's first blood going over to the Shactus. So perhaps a little bit of, I guess, a bit of a hasty reaction from Ardvor Esports to move in and try to support there, but the following movement will be that the death goes onto Ordaro, and straight away, slight advantage over to the side of Final Boss Diamond.
I'll take that any day of the week. I mean, so basically the strategy is anytime you have a hook champion, just walk mid. Just walk mid. Every single time. Level 1, everybody just walks mid. Hook champion looks for something. Do you get a flash? Maybe. No. If not, then you're not super out of the water in terms of what you can do. But that was also just a really good interaction. Like, MVP of that play is definitely Death. He right there in the middle of the Leona E, he throws out his hook and it stops her in mid-air. They get the kill.
Oh,
That's super
go
important
again.
because, I mean, Joe?
Not much else. As the stun did end up running through, but no.
Yeah, this is just regular Camille things. You just kind of just walk up and level 1 them with E.
Yeah. No, I was thinking more so. I was more so curious because we were on death in that hook level 1 kind of out of the bush there. The interaction on Seraphine's E also stunning off of hard CC. Then I remembered it's a level 1 Seraphine.
I mean, she should have double casts if she's like every other champion that has a resource bar that's similar to hers. Maybe that's not the case, but I don't play enough Seraphine because I usually keep that champion not in my games. She's very degenerate. And solo queue's not usually the place you want to pick Seraphine. Either way, we'll move away from that. Currently what we have is our junglers playing to opposite sides of the map. Shactus already getting an early ward, sees the top side is there, and has to recognize that meta shift is probably going to be pathing towards top. But instead, actually, we see the pings coming out. There might be a play here mid. Maybe if they can just get the flash out from LL Cool J's, could be something there.
Well, it seems that LL Cool J was wise to that one. Ooh. Facebreaker almost going to pull a mid away there out of the hook shot, but we'll be fine overall.
Man, this is the worst part of this. So he knows he's coming top. He knows enemy jungle's coming top. He has his wave in a horrible spot. So now he's stuck saying, do I freeze? Is my wave frozen? Or do I just die?
It's a bit hesitant, perhaps. Wrong decision. Shactus going to flash over, trying to find the damage to find the lethal onto a mid there. Not quite enough. Did find the true damage proc, though, that extra amount coming through. So, I mean, it was a very valiant attempt from the side of the Shactus, but it's just not quite enough to find any return kills there on the gank at the top lane.
Yeah, and the wave is also just coming in, so for a mid, basically he can just recall. He can choose to try to match TP. It's early on in the game, so you're not really kind of worrying too much about the cooldown there, but that's a very big win. Not only getting the kill, but getting the flash as well. Not bad in terms of the lane state either. Very good position.
Oh, Cool Jace will go for it, but his Jace might just not be cool enough. Fire Mana going to pick up that kill on the auto attack. Jockey's here in return. But just might be too little too late for the jungler on Final Boss Diamond there in the counter gank.
That's a great find. So far already, Art of War are doing exactly what we needed them to do in the early game, which was finding early advantage and try to get Fire Mana off to a good start. So while he is down in CS, we'll have access to being able to take his recall, TP's back in. The only one who's kind of a big winner right now is going to be Zaki, and if Zaki can actually secure this blue buff, then you can say, okay, I'm doing fine.
Meta shift will use a Twisted Defense to try to get out of there. Will do for now, and with the help of Fire Mana, should be able to get, is able to get out.
Yeah, they needed to continue to make this play, and honestly, if you're Zaki, you know that your top laners on this side, just take his Gromp. Like, I don't know if necessarily Gwen got to see if the Gromp was up and available, but you should know you had the early ward in his topside jungle. Just take his camps. What is he going to do? It's a flashless level 3 Maokai versus Gwen. You have a top and mid who are already have collapsed. Just take another jungle camp. You need to be getting as fed as possible. That's kind of the game plan when we're looking at this game. Make sure that your carries that need the farm are getting their gold, getting their experience, getting those item break points, so we can get, to the stronger parts of the game. So now what I want to see from both of these teams is how their supports are going to be moving. We do have Rift Heralds, or we do have Rift Grubs spawning in a couple of seconds here. So how do these two supports move? We see Ordaro is kind of holding this bottom wave right now, and Death is just making sure to apply pressure, get vision, see where meta shift is so that Shocky can play with as much information as he can.
Yeah, and obviously it has been the Jockey show for the side of Final Boss Diamond, and at the start of this, at least for Final Boss Diamond, even though they, Shactus getting low amid, not going to quite go for that. Fireman a low flash forward from LO Cool Jace gets that kill in return, and a flash away from amid. I only have to imagine that that was a tower shot, considering the health bars. Amid going low, taking too many shots themselves, but there's the auto attack, does get the kill, and meanwhile, straight over to the bottom lane, Ordaro going to get CC'd very heavily, but will be fine. That bot lane on the side of Final Boss Time, not necessarily having all that much damage there, but top lane, the Amid show is coming through, and it's a solo kill there for the top lane of Art of War Esports.
Man, Amid last week actually played a very similar matchup to this. Played the Akali into Camille matchup into, Akuma. They had Basings up there, and Basings was kind of putting hands on him, but it looked even for the first couple of levels. And then eventually the game kind of got out of hand. Amid just unfortunately wasn't able to find anything. But their solo lanes are doing such a great job right now for Final Boss that it's opened themselves up to do grubs, which is not what we were expecting coming into the matchup here. We were thinking, okay, you have Shactus on this set, you have Jace in mid. This should be a perfectly fine, opening for Shocky to be able to pick up early grubs. And that's just not the case. So Metashift able to pick up the first 3 for his team. Not really, I don't think, a team that utilizes grubs particularly well, but mostly the golden experience they're taking away from the enemy opponent, as well as potentially, if we find themselves in another team fight, you're also taking this away from your opponents who are notoriously very, very good at being able to split push and play lane.
Speaking of, going back to the side of the mid and the Shactus, it's just gone from bad to the worse. If you are the Shactus here, that wave is in a dire state. God of Gank towards the bot lane. Flash forward from Ordaro will get the flash from Walt in response, but with all the summoner spells available, Death should be able to get away for now, especially with Jockey who's coming through. Also level 6. You're talking about the Jockey show. It just might have arrived. There's the first for Jockey. 5 mana is here now. This is still
How does that not
Jockey is full health. Jockey going through, Jockey, snip, gets the kill. One more going to LO Cool James for Mage, basket of knives. It's 4-4-0 over to the side of Final Boss Diamond here in the bottom lane, and the doors may have opened wide open for our second place team here.
I'm very sad for Fire Mana there. There's no universe in which that charm doesn't land onto Vault. I don't think it would have changed much in terms of the fight, but that charm missing definitely hurts a little bit, and it was a great job from the rest of the team to be able to collapse. Shocky playing with a lot of tools here. Remember, the Seraphine and Nautilus are purely here to be able to empower the rest of the team, the top side of this team, which so far, hey, Shactus not having a great game doesn't matter. LO Cool Jace and Shocky are having a great one, and Shocky has been someone that has been really impressive. The first 2 weeks, we were like, is this guy going to go deathless? Ends up finally dying in one of those last games in their second series. But aside from that, this jungler him and his mid laner have been really, really impressive. And so we kind of want to see what the rest of this team can kind of do with such a great mid jungle right now.
It didn't. I thought for a second that the showstopper was going to throw a mid under tower and might been able to threaten lethal there, but no tower shots, so it'll be okay.
So now again, what I want to keep kind of pulling focus to you is how we see mid and jungle really link up here. So for Shocky and LO Cool Jace, it's about finding roaming death timers, trying to find camps to be able to steal from the opponent. And for Fire Mana and Metashift, it's to be able to find gank timers. When can you find a roam? Can you go bottom lane? Can you potentially destabilize this top side matchup? We have grub spawning in another minute, so expect maybe within the next 30 to 45 whether or not we actually get the mid jungle of Art of War to actually open up the rest of the map and play for grubs.
Yeah, but until then, we'll kind of die down for a little bit now. I mean, you mentioned that the best use of grubs might not be over to the side of Art of War, but I would have to assume with how much Amid has been dominating this, when you're saying gank timers, Metashift's up here, and Shactus will know that that's the case. And the grub's coming up soon. Hold on, Jackie is very close. Metashift is caught out, doesn't really have much support from Amid. in just yet. Twisted Advance will come through, but the health bar on Medshift's already so low, and the mid, even though it is here now, will use the Hextech Ultimatum, will start to shack this and try to get it in return, but it's not enough, and it is Jockey picking up his third of the game, and will continue to run the Rift here for the side of Final Boss Diamond.
Not only does he get the kill, but they also get the flash out of Metashift. That ward in between Tri-Brush and the lane brush behind his turret, so impactful. I'm just going to check real quick. Whose ward is this? It's Shaktis. Shaktis just set his entire team up for success. Not only do they get those that one kill, they take away a timer here for the side of Art of War. Now Shocky actually gets to take both of the camps that were up, so gets the respawn blue buff, gets his Gromp as well this time, and can play for this Grubs as his top laner is coming back, can teleport, and you've been talking about it, mid priority has been such a big focus here. LL Cool J's really stomping Fireman into the ground on this.
Shift wants to go for this one, will at least smite away the first Grub, so it won't be all 6 going over to the side of Art of War for now. Jockey does have that smite available. LL Cool J's now in support should mean that Jockey does claim the next 2, and yeah, probably wisely moving away from that one is Art of War Esports.
But like, what has Metashift done this entire time, right? Like, Metashift, he took a recall timer. I don't think he finished it. He moved back up in the top side to try to contest for the Grubs. And all of this time, I mean, his bottom lane is just getting hammered away. His mid lane can't really move. Someone needs to be able to help some of these other lanes right now. And really, that comes either your support or your jungle.
Helping the other lanes. The hook shot won't be available for mid. Great showstopper from Shaktis. Great patience will force the flash out of mid. I thought for sure that would have been the top laner of Art of War going down, but would be okay at least for now and is far enough away where I should imagine they'd be able to get out.
Man, a mid, like, just TP top lane, has no flash. All of that top side, the 1v2s that he got, the early advantages they were able to set up from the lane, they're just gone at this point. Shaktis has been able to grab 2 plates by himself. They've completely dominated the top side. And during all of this, I mean, Metashift hasn't really been able to get all that much done. There's no bot side camps for him to farm. Do not tell me. Okay, I was very afraid. I was like, if LL Cool J's actually just stole the scuttle from Metashift, as a jungler, I'd probably say open. Like, there's nothing for me to do. I have no top side I can gank for. I have no camps that I can farm. This guy is going to, like, 1.5x my gold income very, very quickly. So, Art of War, in that spot that we were talking about from draft, where if they don't find an overwhelming advantage and are able to drive that home, the game is going to be more and more difficult for them.
Yeah, and I have to imagine that would probably be the case, especially with how low this mid lane tier 1 tower is and how much more push LL Cool J should be able to get in this matchup. So as being a level up, should be going down any second now. And that'll just open up the map that much more for a potential upcoming Drake as they start to stack this one away. Hook will land. I don't imagine this should result in much. I say that, but a lot of damage does actually coming through. Basket of Knives will have to flash away there. You know, I stand corrected, and there goes the mid lane tier 1 turret, but we're not done here in the bottom lane. The health bars are way too low. Potentially dive coming through. Basket of Knives is way too low. I mean, it's not a tower dive anymore. No, it's just being proxied away.
Yep, they're just making sure that they can't be there for golden experience. They're getting plates for themselves. Honestly, excellently done. Walt and Death continue to kind of show up as the bot lane pair here for this team. Walt, individually, before this game, had really only been playing some more of the offensive AD carries. Has an Ezreal game, a Jinx game, and Ashe. Does have a Ziggs in his back pocket as well. And statistically, one of the best players in the league. Is first in KDA, second in gold per minute, first in gold differential per game, which just means against his opponents he's performing really, really well, and he has one of the least deaths.
We'll try to find the gank onto the Shaktis. Early Haymaker will be thrown down, interestingly enough, very early. LL Cool J's on the back end. This should be all LL Cool J's. He's so far ahead, has so much gold amid his final, and actually, well, here's Jockey. It's just over for Amid. Not much you can really do. That's going to be 4th of the game, going over to the side of Jockey, and that mid-jungle duo, it is arguably one of the best in the league, and is really showing why that has been the case so far here in Game 1.
I had a couple of question marks as to whether or not LL Cool J was going to be kind of the real thing when it came to mid lane. I thought that some of his games last week individually, I got to watch some of his POV and I wasn't super impressed. But so far on this Jace, him and Jockey have independently been able to grow their leagues, and once they bring them together...
Have some contests around the Rift. Herald Jockey's going low, but doesn't have a lot of damage taken onto him. Will be the shutdown, though. Going on to the Ahri is kind of where you want it. Shaktus going low, but without much help from his team. He will have to flash away. Amid is here, and now the Shaktus will finally go down as he gets blast coned in the wrong direction. And even though the help is here, it's too late. No members left on the side of Final Boss Diamond here to help Death, as he will find his namesake in the gray screen coming up real soon. At least one kill does get returned onto the side of onto Ordaro. But overall, it's a very big win from the side of Art of War Esports, as they should be able to pick up the Rift Turtle on the back end of this as well.
So, while I would say typically going for the Herald is fine, they actually lose so much for going for this Herald if they're going to try to commit for this. Having Basket of Knives do this, I think, is also a mistake. Like, you need to be able to tend to your bot wave. If you don't do this, you're going to lose that one out. You're already guaranteed a top lane tier 1 thanks to having the Trinity Force and having 4 grubs. So, I like them not being too hasty, not immediately going for the grubs. And they got so much gold, you just need to be able to spend it at that point. And getting so many of those kills, some of the shutdowns as well, very, very important. And I think it's also just kind of a thing that we've seen, this pattern of play where maybe our junglers get a little bit too overexcited. They think they can go for the 1v1. Their team wasn't all quite there on the side of Final Boss, so kind of having to go back to the drawing board. I think they still have a comfortable enough lead, especially with LO Cool J finishing his second item very, very soon. That Muramana
Jockey might be just picked out here. And yeah, there it is. Just too much damage between Jin and Ahri. The CC wasn't enough to drop down the ability to just go immune, and you know, it was too little too late. And now they're saying just getting too excited overconfidence is a slow and insidious killer, and that very much applied to Jockey there. We're going to continue to go on to Death, though. Extended out a lot. Death going low, but it's only trade of 1-for-1 so far. Metashift going down as well. So as I say that, right on the back end, both these junglers, as you were saying, Alt Battery, just getting way too far ahead of themselves, thinking they're a lot further ahead than they are. As we get I mean, I guess it's 2-for-2 overall in terms of the fight, but
I mean, they're already behind, so their lives matter a little bit less when it comes to how much gold they're going to be able to grab there. Basket of Knives taking so much damage there is actually insane. This Jace is so far ahead. But Jockey, again, just playing without another member. When you are playing this Gwen, I mean, in general, when you're playing most of the carry junglers, unless you're playing something like Kayn that has an extreme amount of mobility, you have to play with someone. Walt was in mid lane, but not close enough to be able to actually back up his jungler. So Shocky just kind of playing a little bit reckless. I think this is similar to what we saw from Drid last week on his team, so not super kind of out of the ordinary here. Finally, we're going to have the Rift Herald being taken, and right now, this is a precarious situation of the game where currently we're seeing that Final Boss Diamond are 6,000 to 7,000 gold ahead of their opponents. This Rift Herald is going to be used to potentially open up more of the map, and then we get into a situation where we're on second Drake, and both of those Drakes are on Final Boss, so you as Art of War, what are you actually able to do? You're waiting for the pick potential to be coming out of Fire Mana and Odaro.
We're talking about the pick potential. This just might be it right there. Under the tower, LL Cool J is going low, going down, shut down onto Basket of Knives. That's going to be a lot of gold given over to this Jin, who now has the ultimate perfect 4 kills under his belt.
Okay, cool. So we invested 4 people. We got the Jace shut down onto Jin. It's 800 gold. We got the objective bounty as well, 250 split between all 5 of us. I'm pressing tab. Okay, we lost our inhibitor turret. Oh no. Really, really smart. I'm glad they didn't actually end up going to overextend for that, but it's just going to turn into 2 turrets in trade for Final Boss. I think, unfortunately for LL Cool J, he kind of just was like, well, there's 4 people bottom lane. Nothing I could do about it at that point. So they're going to grab themselves a dragon, put themselves on Soul Point. And despite some hiccups this game, I think this has been a really, really well played game from most of the members of Final Boss. They've been playing really, really well individually, and I think the comp that they've drafted for themselves is very easy to play as well.
Yeah, I don't know. So to move on that way, hold on. That's going to be Death dropping an ultimate, but not really anyone else here just yet. Perhaps a little bit early, but here comes the fight. The Encore will find 3. That is massive. Here comes the rest of Final Boss Diamond. And that's 2 kills going down fairly early as we have Baron coming up in just a few moments. Here, I wouldn't be surprised if we turn right onto that if we decide Final Boss Diamond. There they go right towards the Baron pit.
Yeah, that was a really great play coming out from them. They know that they can overforce on that. They can use all of their spells. Their spells are meant to be used on something, right? And it's finding an engage off of the mid-tier one of theirs falling. So they're going to grab the Baron here. Super important for them, especially for someone like LL Cool J, who with this Baron alongside Shaktis, if they want, they can play for a 4-1. They can try to play 2 people on a side lane with Set potentially as more playing as an engaged supportive player versus being necessarily the split pusher for the team. And look what they're doing. They're
I don't know if you want to be here amid. He's just stuck in the middle of it. It's just pushed way too far here in the side lane for mid. I mean, guess it's slightly understandable since you're kind of in a situation where, well, we got to do something, but definitely not the best look at all from the side of a mid.
We're just gonna get a disgusting base race. Like, we don't have any pushing power, guys. Jhin hitting turrets takes 6 years, even with 4 grubs. They've already taken 2 turrets, and you've just barely started hitting the mid tier 2.
Yeah, I mean, we've already seen a few recalls coming through, and as the Shaktis is here, I don't expect to see much else in that mid lane, but another attack comes through. Jockey tries to find his way onto Medishift, taken low, but still should be okay for now with the numbers advantage. Fire Mana and Parrot is the power of LL Cool J's. So far, that wasn't even an empowered Q at all from LL Cool J's amid. Oh, I don't know about that one, amid. Oh, that one. Oh, that's hey.
For most support players, that's when you're playing a hook champion like Nautilus or Leona in this instance, and you throw out an E just to like kind of test the waters, and as soon as you throw the E, enemy jungle mid shows up in your lane. You're like, I'm really glad this didn't land, because I would have just instantly died, and the game's over for us. So, good job from a mid to be able to get out of that situation. However, this game is still doomed. It's still in a win here for Final Boss. We're just waiting for them to kind of dot their I's and cross their T's at this moment. And I kind of want to kind of touch back on some of the moments we were talking about, even during Otter Talk here, where, I mean, Shocky is a player that is, you know, going to be trying to go for some really high-fee plays. This is a team that is very jungle-led. What Shocky wants to do is what the team's going to try to kind of accomplish. And so I like how driven he is. I love when teams come in with an identity and someone who wants to play a game a very specific way, because it makes it easier for everybody else. You can kind of fall in line. You can try to find strategies around that. And so far, winning lanes plus farming jungle usually turns into a winning game.
Yeah, and I mean, we just got a good look at them there with the Baron buff, and LL Cool J says all the range in the world to just chunk Basket of Knives' health down by half from 2 screens away. I don't suspect that'll change anytime soon, and really, it definitely does feel inevitable. I'm personally trying to find ways in which, like, in my mind's eye,
the game. Look, after 9,000 gold, approximately, the game becomes a miracle case where it takes not 1, maybe 2. More than likely 3 throws in a row from the enemy team for you to win the game. There's very few situations past 9,000 gold where the game's playable.
Yeah, and I mean, that's all 3 inhibitors down on the side of Final Boss Diamond. They're taking their time because they really can. I mean, the thing is with sieges, I mean, something that funny thing is historically sieges, they don't really storm the keep, and we're kind of seeing almost a historical reenactment within League of Legends of sieges, where you just kind of sit down and just wait out your opponent. And
yeah,
as we sit for a little bit longer, I mean, we will inevitably have to see some final fight from the side of Final Boss Diamond, but really, just again, I don't know what else there is. I mean, Drake coming up in just a few seconds here, which would be the Cloud Soul, which would go a little bit of distance to help be able to close that distance and then end the game just almost instantly, especially with the composition that FBD does have drafted. So yeah, as we move over to the Drake, this just, I mean, it's just another thing in their belt, another tool in their belt to close this one out sooner rather than later.
I like it. I mean, this is a great game about what we should expect. Again, this is a a match that coming in on Otter Talk, we had all of the panelists kind of giving up, saying this should be a final boss win. It's the matter in which they win that I think is more important. And for the side of Art of War, this is now their second week kind of putting in this roster. If we take a look at their week 2, I just want to kind of pull this up. They were playing with this kind of exact lineup of putting in Basket of Knives instead of Numbers. Numbers is no longer playing support. It is going to be Odaro, the one that they had ran in week 1. This might just be a week where it's a transitionary period, where we're saying, okay, they got their roster in, they kind of played their first stage game, let's see what happens. They also have a new jungler we haven't seen.
Hook will land, Odaro going low. There's going to be trying to find a gank onto Wolf, but it's just too little from the side of Final Boss Diamond. LL Cool J's getting 1, getting 2 there.
Wow.
Will go down from the tower shots, but with how low a few of these health bars are on the side of Art of War Esports, they will be able to get to the fountain fairly quickly, but with how much damage there is, Shaktas flashing forward. Showstopper will find Odaro. It's enough to go down. No more towers available. And for good measure, open Nexus with a million minions. There's not much you can really do. There it goes, finally. It seemed inevitable for the last, I mean, I would argue and say about 10 minutes there, but certainly for the last 2. There was just not much you could really do on the side of Final Boss Diamond to turn that, on the side of Final Boss Diamond, on the side of Art of War Esports to try to turn that one around. So, overall, extremely well played from Final Boss Diamond in a way that we somewhat expected them to do here coming into this matchup.
Yeah, they kind of own them. I don't have anything else to say. I mean, I have Art of War, I think, if I remember correctly, 6th on my power rankings, and feeling that's kind of about where they're at right now, especially with how many different roster shakeups they've had so far. We're bringing in a new jungler this week. So I don't know. I want to see what comes up of game 2, but I think especially in a Fearless draft, I think the identity of the comp that they actually went for still fits this team for the side of Final Boss, and how they close out on a game 2 is going to potentially put them in that echelon for the top 3, right? Because we had that discussion as to who was going to be exactly the top 3, and this kind of win right here, another 2-0, puts them at 3-0. They're 6-0 in game score if they're able to take it as a 2-0, so very, very important.
And with that in mind, we will send it into a break, but it will only be a very momentary one as we get the draft for Game 2 ready here for between Art of War and Final Boss Diamond. If you're just tuning in, this is Blue Otter's Diamond League here in Week 3. And like I said, if you are just tuning in, don't go anywhere. It should be less than 2 minutes, ideally, before we're back in. And we are back for game 2 between Final Boss Diamond and Art of War Esports after what was a mostly convincing win from the side of Final Boss Diamond, especially towards the end there, Alk Battery.
Yeah, I mean, the game was kind of over at 15 minutes, but we played out the rest of it just to make sure that it was definitely over and that Final Boss Time were actually able to win this. So coming into game 2, a couple champions that we're definitely not going to be seeing is going to be that Jin first pick. And it is also going to be, a couple of strong champions. I think Maokai, Leona, these champions already being taken away in a best of 3. You don't get too many kind of reps on that many champions, but Leona and Maokai being gone are such big kind of champions in terms of what they provide and what you're actually able to do. So I'm interested to see what the adaptations are. Something that we saw last game is, keeping that Viego band, that Nico now joining the table. And for Final Boss Diamond, I'm kind of thinking, like, what are they going to be doing here? Because for their first drafts, on blue side, they have, on one of their games, taken a Jinx, but Viego is also a champion that kind of got through last time, so I'm wondering if they're going to be focusing more on this as we get further on into the draft.
Yeah, I mean, it is a bit surprising that they may not have decided to go for that first pick Viego, especially since it is a champion that Jockey has been fairly known to play so far in these first few weeks. That being said, this early pick Ziggs into the Jinx, I'm a fan of, especially for that lane, be able to get pushed there. For the side of Art of War Esports, though, as a response, Jinx not exactly a champion I've seen too much in the meta recently, so I perhaps could pick the inner brains of your thoughts on that Alk Battery, maybe.
Yeah, so Jinx has been getting picked fairly frequently, at least in this league, specifically trying to utilize the opportunity build. When people kind of started seeing this, it was more of the lethality Jinx, so you're going Collector, then you're picking up Opportunity. Opportunity, one of the buffs that you get for when you get a takedown is you get 400. I think it's either 400 or 100 MS on kill, and that combined with Jinx's passive basically just makes her just jet stream across the map very, very quickly, and you can use her ultimate. It makes it so that she's more reliant on her W, and any attack speed that she would actually get is mostly coming from her minigun as well as some of the attack speed that she gets from her passive. So this is if this is going to be the lethality build, we'll kind of see as we get closer into the game. But for Art of War, I already love this draft to start. We were talking about this before, but the Ziggs as a response to the Jinx, able to outrange her, able to deal damage in that way, and I love this Yone. Yone right now is just very strong. I think his itemization is very robust, and as a champion, there's not too many matchups currently in the game that he kind of loses in pretty hard fashion. At least none that we're kind of seeing really prominent so far. So I like this. Final Boss, however, picking a team composition that is very, very good at being able to protect the queen, which right now is going to be Jinx. We'll see what their carry options are going to be from the jungle right now, because already I think Art of War are kind of tackling that by getting rid of the Talia. I don't expect to see a Kayn ban, but I do expect us to kind of be seeing more and more of those jungle picks. If not, maybe something out of LL Cool J's champion pool, which right now looks like they're probably going to be looking for an AD jungler, and with Viego still on the table, that is something they can look towards, but expect for some kind of AD jungler right now, especially when we look at what really has been going on in the mid lane. I love this Orianna ban away from LL Cool J's.
Yeah, I mean, LL Cool J's definitely in I think it was the second most played champion last season in Blue Water Diamond League. So, and with how many tools that Final Boss Diamond does have drafted to their side to help to enable the shockwave from Orianna, it is definitely a fairly solid takeaway. However, let's wait and see. Scar, I mean, there's not a lot of time left. I'm not exactly sure if I'd like to see this coming through Art of War Esports. They will lock it in. I have to imagine that'd be going to the Shactus. I'd be very shocked if they put Jockey on a more supportive champion like that Skarner, but we will have to wait and see in that regard.
Yep. For Final Boss, kind of a lot of options. I think Viego, unfortunately, into Yone is not going to be the most fun. Into Ziggs, it is something that you can try for. But right now, if anything, they can try to just lock their mid pick and give more time for jungle to try to come up with something. Cassio, perfectly fine. I thought this is a pretty cool kind of pick here, as we kind of saw some of the other players in the league picking up this Cassiopeia, but really haven't seen too much of it. So now they need either an AD jungler or they need another tank. But at that point, you're kind of really, I think you're a little bit lower on damage. I actually think if he's willing to drop ego, this is a Jarvan game. This is 100% a Jarvan game. You could also try to go for more of an AD bruiser. So think of like the Udyr for power farming, or you can go for, I don't know, like a Wukong. I don't think that's going to be Zed jungle. I kind of want to wait to see what we're going to get. Maybe this is just a Gragas and we have Cassiopeia top lane versus Skarner, which could be interesting. But I don't think the Cassio into Yone matchup is particularly fun. So maybe they're going to try and dodge that and put Gragas in there.
I don't see anything being said from the side of Final Boss Diamond in the lobby chat. So it does look like it will actually be a Zed lock-in. I thought that might be a thing with like the draft tools that we're using beforehand, that maybe it was like, you know, maybe it selects either a random champion or maybe Zed specifically after you ran out of time. But since there is nothing from the side of Final Boss Diamond, they are okay. Yep. So it is actually Zed locked in for FBD, and I mean, I'd have to assume with how many Gragas games that the Shactus has under their belt that will probably be Gragas top.
Yeah.
I mean, but we do have a lot of potential mix-ups. I would be excited to see Zed jungle. We'll have to, I mean, I'm assuming, but there's just so many things you can do in terms of flexes. There will absolutely have to be a hold on to that, and when we see those picks go to where they do between then. That being said, on the side of Art of War Esports, a little bit of a surprise there being Vladimir as the option for
Vlad is just a monster on this patch right now. Vlad is just so disgusting in top lane. If anybody just doesn't know and you maybe want to get some free LP for whatever reason, get a couple of games in, you know, try it out in practice tool, get a little bit of practice on just some of the Vladimir combos. But WMAX, Grasp of the Undying, and Cosmic Drive. That's the whole build. And you kind of just walk over everybody. They kept buffing this champion repeatedly, and eventually now it's just kind of taking over as another ranged top laner. And he does have some good team fight. The problem with Vlad is that very early on, one of the things is you can just kind of push him under the turret a lot of times. And with this WMAX build, he's able to deal a ton of damage. You're not able to interact with him, and he clears your minion wave very fast. So going to be pretty interested to see what they do. From Art of War, though, stylistically, I think this is a much better draft for what they want to be able to accomplish than what we saw in Game 1. You have Ziggs, who is able to outrange this Jinx. You also now have a Yone and a Vladimir who can try to threaten this Jinx and some of her compatriots. A lot of these champions right now, when we look at Cassio and Jinx, are very immobile. And so when you have tools like this, it becomes very easy for them to get poked out. Suddenly they're missing 30% of their HP coming into a team fight, and that right there could be an execute. That right there could be Vladimir coming in over top with the ultimate, with the Hemoplague, and one-shotting everybody on the enemy team. So now for Final Boss, they need to be able to operate this. I mean, early game, Zed can just clear through the jungle. He's a very good skirmisher early on, but he doesn't have a ton of CC from his lanes. The best ganking tools he's going to have is coming from top lane, so really not going to be able to rely on LL Cool J's to be able to be there. And early game, Cassiopeia can deal damage, but it involves her kind of just running through her entire mana bar. So I'm interested to see how they're able to execute on this comp, as I think this is a much harder kind of bar, and maybe a little bit of them trying to style on their opponents.
I think that, honestly, there's definitely some element of them trying to style on Art of War Esports, because Cassiopeia as a pick, a little bit of a surprise for me. Not necessarily in terms of the competition that they want to run, but LL Cool J's most played champion last season in Blue Water Diamond League was Azir, and I feel like Azir in this situation would have probably been a much better choice on side of Final Boss Diamond. I agree or disagree?
I would have to play Azir into Ziggs and Yone, so that would just mean I'm leaving the game.
Oh, I mean, fair, but
yeah, like I just wouldn't want to play the game. Like at that point, it's just I'm just gonna get ran down. There's not a lot of mage picks I think you can pick here. Syndra's getting popular just because she got buffs. Rise into Yone could potentially be more interesting there, but these are Shadow Realms that we're boxing right now. These worlds don't exist. You have Cassiopeia here. Cassiopeia can be very, very difficult, I think, for Art of War to actually deal with. Her grounding ability is going to be so important with the Miasma. But if for whatever reason, we see Art of War Esports, they're able to get around, they're able to get under a lot of these tools, I just think it's a lot harder for them. So when we're talking about Final Boss, they're a team that is not perfect. They're a team that definitely can get ahead of themselves. We've seen that time and time again with some of these star junglers that are coming through the league. But it is down to execution. And I will say the one thing that Final Boss do have going for them is that momentum. Is that momentum of currently being 5-0, on the verge of being 6-0, and going for a 3-0 in your series. That right there can play a lot. And this is also a team from the side of Art of War that doesn't have a lot of stage games together. They've been kind of mixing and matching different players, putting in different roles, putting different players in at different times. So now we kind of got to see, like, is it going to be enough? Is your composition advantage, in my opinion, going to be overwhelming enough to try to beat a team that has been getting more of those stage reps, has been getting more and more comfortable to the shot calling role system? That I don't know.
Well, we'll just have to wait and see if Art of War Esports can overcome the hurdle of Final Boss Diamond in Game 2, but we are heading into the spectator delay. But before we do that, I can confirm it is actually Zed Jungle, which is kind of what we expected. But with that in mind, we will send it to a break, and when we come back, we'll have loaded onto the Rift for Game 2 between Final Boss Diamond and Art of War Esports. Don't go anywhere. And we are back and loaded into game 2 between Final Boss Diamond of Art of War Esports here on the Blue Art Diamond League. Just straight away, not really much. Got a standard 5-point start from both these teams, all batteries. So,
yeah.
why not give us a quick little rundown for those who might just be tuning in who've missed?
Final Boss absolutely wiped. And we're about to see Shocky play Zed Jungle. Gonna be a lot of fun there. Don't think he's gonna have too much to do in terms of like early ganking. He is. So I would say Zed Jungle is basically like a lot weaker of a AD farming jungle that is just so predicated on hitting level 6, but has a lot of early skirmishing. The problem is that he offers no crowd control. So you're very reliant on your Rel, on your Gragas, and these are two champions that are not guaranteed to land anything. When you have the Skarner, he can pick up Rel in the middle of her crashdown, and suddenly you don't have a crashdown Rel. You can stop the Gragas and the Rel from going in with a Zig Satchel. So lots of different kind of things working all at the same time, and we're going to have to see if whether or not they can actually kind of pull this together, because if you're able to win with Zed Jungle, then this is just another case of there's a very clear top 3, top 4, and everybody else.
Yeah, Zed Jungle definitely not being the most meta of picks for a reason. It's not necessarily unheard of, though.
No.
Definitely that bad, but you're talking about, we see it a little bit in this top lane early on, the Vladimir pick from a mid already doing numbers, and you're saying the Grasp the Undying with Ghost being able to start to take over this game.
He just W max. I mean, what is Gragas gonna do? What is Gragas gonna do? He's look at that.
He's gonna hop forward.
He belly flopped me, and now I drain him for 40% of his HP on a Q, and I auto attack him at Grass. Like it's actually just, this champion is really ridiculous right now. Again, if you want free LP, it's what you do. Yep. And Gragas is also a champion that for the past year has been getting some play top lane, but has been repeatedly nerfed on his passive, specifically on his sustain through lane through his passive. So good shout. Oh my god, LL Cool J's just running this guy. So Fire Mana utilizing his HP bar and the shielding that you get from Yone W, but when you're playing against Cassiopeia early, if you can get her to 10% mana very early on, she kind of absolutely has zero lane presence. There's nothing that champion can do to you.
Yeah, and it's, so sometimes Braid, we do actually have an invade coming through.
Give me your jungle camps.
Moving forward, it's a good idea. The choppers will come down. There's nothing you can do. Your dash doesn't go over that. And that'll be first blood going over to Shocky. A bit of a blunder from the side of Ordaro. Maybe not quite recognizing the situation at hand, but the amount of upfront damage there from the Zed, you're saying that it was going to be a little bit tough to gank, but that's typically because the choppers don't get all that much CC down themselves. When you have that setup, it's just a lot of damage coming through.
Yeah, Ordaro just kind of taking it there, and Cool Jace, you have to know that he's there now. Nobody is in position, and he currently has 3 people corralling his lane without him knowing. So even if he flashes, nice job. Uses the miasma, is able to stop this Skarner E right in his tracks, and does trade his flash, which could be very important, especially if Fireman is able to kind of get to level 6 without much issue. Then we could potentially see Odaro and him link back up in mid lane and look to try to punish this Cassiopeia.
You say without much issue, but at least in the first 4 levels, as we've seen, it has been largely the LL Cool J's show. I mean, he needed 4 members from the side of Art of War Esports to try to slow that down, even. But yeah, I mean, as he said, at the very least, that coming through, and without any more teleports, you do find that level 6 just maybe, or maybe not even maybe, but if if things fall in place. I don't know what the wording I'm going for. Help me out a little bit here.
I need to flame Zaki there, because Zaki just spent so much time trying to make this bot play, did end up stealing Metashif's Gromp, but wasn't able to get all that much off of it. And, I mean, the one good thing that I will say for right now is, while Shocky is experiencing a small gold lead, Metashift is keeping up and is now trying to look early on. I mean, again, Zed has some damage, but I mean, this champion is just so tanky. Interesting for a meta shift to actually go for the Grasp of the Undying. That's usually a rune that you're going to be looking for if you're looking to skirmish very often. Oh, Fire Mana, Fire Mana,
Fire Mana going low. The
There we
poison
go.
won't last long enough. That is a surprising amount of damage from LL Cool J. So I do actually like the use of the miasma there from the side of LL Cool J to stop the immediate callback on the E there from Yone. Definitely assisted a lot in getting that much damage down. And really, LL Cool J's this mid lane has been all for the side of LL Cool J. So I mean. Wait a minute!
And there it is, and presses W.
Power shots and then presses W, and yeah, I mean,
Wow, I love Vladimir so much. If you couldn't tell, I hate this champion. Like this champion
Really?
is so degenerate. Anytime Vladimir is good, there we go. Punish the no flash.
The level 6 coming through. LL Cool J, as you said, no flash. They're going to try to give it over to Fireman. It does do that successfully. Not much you can really do as LL Cool J without any sort of mobility on the Cassiopeia. And that is going to be slightly advantage to Ardmore Esports.
So, okay, again, good punish. You know Cassiopeia has no flash. And I love that Fireman actually took that trade in the mid lane. I say that. He's probably just going to die here. Shocky just stay here. Just auto-attack him. Just auto-attack him. Just auto-attack him. And he's dead. Okay, cool. So he's gone. That's a kill for Shocky. But I love that Firemana was willing to trade with LL Cool J so that he got into a position where he's low HP, doesn't have a ton of mana, and then they can find a trade like that. Do not tell me Shockus finds this.
Cas will find the solo kill! He did, in fact, find it ult battery! And, Vladimir, he can W, he can just hop away. I wonder if that ability was on a cooldown. Is the reason why the Shockus would have gone for that, but it was placed just perfectly. Hold on, that's going to be death fairly low for now. Numbers should be okay, and yeah, no damage coming through there at all.
And while all this is happening, by the way, Walt and Death have basically just said, Numbers and Odara, you don't get to play the game anymore. Because of Jockey actually staying bottom lane for an extra wave or two, they got zoned off. It ended up walking and the wave pushing towards Walton Death. So they have a 2-level lead over their opponents, which doesn't seem like much, but especially for our supports here, when Rel has that ultimate available to her, she is ahead of the curve that much more in front of Odaro. And now Ziggs has not been able to get any farm, has not been able to get too much experience. 30 CS down. This is not what we're expecting when we're talking about these matchups. We're looking for Ziggs to be sitting there and to be farming at range, making sure that Walt can't step out without taking damage. And because of this, they've opened up so much pressure on their bottom lane that now Walt has level 6. Oh, I mean, Death, I can just click on him real quick. He's half of the way to level 6. He's going to have that ultimate a lot sooner, which means come time for Grubs in 3 minutes, maybe they can make a play before then and try to open up the map. They can even try to go for this dragon if they want to, and they are just that much stronger, especially because you look at Jungle now as well. He's level 7 and already really far ahead with his items.
Yeah, it's starting to, again, early on, even though the kills, similar to last time, even though like the total amount of blood shed on both sides are relatively even, the results of them definitely start fading Final Boss Diamond very early on, and that bot lane definitely not going at all expected.
I'm pretty sure Shockus wins this now.
Yeah, you're saying, but we'll move away. Meta shift is here. The flash will be available on Cool Jace very soon, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue. Despite that, we're all starting to gather around this dragon and might have a potential fight coming up there, but for now, it's just a little bit silent. Of course, as soon as I say that, Walt will snare up too with the chompers, but the big dragon is down to only about 2k HP now, and there's numbers advantage on the side of Final Boss Diamond. They will get that kill onto the Drake, so they are picking up that extra neutral objective. Hold on, Cool J is going to be taken down. He should be fine. He's fine.
Are they going to try to make the dive on this play? So Numbers has flash, doesn't have the ultimate quite yet. Neither does Odaro. Death is still level 5 right here.
Oh, it's going to find 2 on the grand entrance. Jockey going low, Ignite ticking down. Shouldn't be enough to take them, though, and they will get out for now. But as you're saying, a potential dive Well, it went very quickly the other way over to the side of Ardvor Esports. Oh no! Death will be found! Death will not die! It is a lot of damage from Wolf! That lethality on the Jinx on the Super Mega Death Rocket, finding a lot, and now turn around, no longer excited off that passive flash forward. Will be able to get that too. Walt gets the double kill, going over. Death is low, but there's nothing he can do as meta shift as they're snared up and too far away. That is yet another going over to the side of Walt, and as we said, the highest KDA player in the Blue Water Diamond League further starts to push that away even more so, sitting 3-0-1 on this hyper carry.
Go ahead and open the game, guys. We can go ahead and open this one. This game's over. Not only did they get away with the most illegal dive bottom lane, where they don't actually get all that much. I love the response coming out from Art of War, but then they steal away the Gromp. Death actually gets away while being on vision the entire time. They just barely got numbers to tick over to level 6, so finally he has his ultimate. I also didn't even make the mental connection that numbers is playing, so yet again kind of feeding into that narrative we were talking about beforehand, where they have this revolving door in the roster situation where we're seeing so many different looks. I don't really see what Basket of Knives and numbers kind of differentiate and what they're able to bring to the table. Maybe it's like a scheduling thing, but I'm not really seeing all that much of a difference. I think probably would have just preferred to play with Basket of Knives in terms of keeping him warmed up. Not saying anything about Number's skill level in this game, but they have not been able to do all that much in this game, and right now they're just kind of, again, something we talked about during draft was, is this a style on them draft? Walt and Death are playing really, really well, and they're kind of showcasing some of that excellency that we were expecting from Final Boss coming into this matchup. But this is just like disrespectful what they're doing to them. Like, you should not be able to get away with these HP bars.
No, I mean, it is said notoriously. I mean, the amount of Zeds I've seen. Hold on, Metashift will try to gank this here. Shactus will go low. Explosive Cast will throw Metashift under tower, but is way too tanky on this. Down, but here comes Jockey on the counter gank. Amid is still about half health, and Ordaro is roaming up to help. Lots of damage from Jockey immediately, but the flash will be used from Amid. Jockey going in. No, Jockey! He's crazy! He's trying to fight it. Jockey's there, does flash word, gets the kill onto Amid. I don't believe it! You said there was a style on the draft.
Open the game. Open it up.
Why are they styled on it? Meanwhile, the bottom lane numbers is getting dope. It's all over the place, all over the map. It is all final boss time, and they really are showing that they are one of the final bosses, maybe the final boss of this league.
Yeah, we've still got to see what they can do up against Akuma, which is going to be their match in a couple of weeks' time. Actually, in week 6, we will see that matchup come to bear. But right now, I mean, Final Boss Diamond are looking like they're on their way to a 3-0 start here in the Blue Water Diamond League. And you look at their schedule coming up. Again, they're going up against Grown Boys Click next week, so a matchup where someone up against them closer to the standings. Then they've got TPF Tempest, who have not been performing well, so you expect that maybe that's going to be a win there. Coming to week 6, they have the potential to be 5-0. That is going to be a really strong record up against the so far undefeated Akuma as well. We'll finally have our 2 undefeated teams potentially having the chance to meet up in week 6, but got a couple of games in between then, and we still have a game to finish here. 11-2 at 14 minutes. There's not much to say. I mean, they're 7,000 gold up. Shocky on this Zed is just putting hands on these guys. And, like, I feel bad for them because we're seeing some individual, like, glimpses of excellence, but it's just overshown by how overwhelmingly dominant this jungle position is for this team.
Yeah, I mean, Jockey was a bit of an unknown, especially for myself going into this one. I remember in the first Otter talk, we had Walton here as well as their coach. They said look out for Jockey. They said that even though he hasn't played too much in a competitive sense, you might not know him. You will know him soon, and my God, do we know him now?
Yeah. Even his first couple weeks, he was doing really, really well, but this is... Hey, man. He's doing good now, and all that we can ask for is him to continue this. Oh, Numbers just getting solo killed.
Numbers just not
And-
really anything you can do. I mean, it was
Okay.
almost not solo killed because Walt was there, almost landed a little bit of damage there. But okay, well, you're talking about that interaction earlier in draft, but that's probably not much you can really do here on side of Final Bot on the side of Art of War Esports. So we'll try to find Death going low, flash away. That won't be enough. Death still going to try to the very best. Halfway Medshift won't find the grab, and it's just, it's honestly just kind of depressing if you're if Art of War Esports right now. Shactus will find him 2 shots to a mid under tower, and it's just
oh my god, Numbers, please,
Numbers,
they're literally opening the base!
It's just, it's legendary for Jockey, and I mean, Medshift now, yeah. I kind of
Isaac,
feel
what
bad.
have you done today? How's your day been? Because this game's over. There's nothing for us to talk about on this game.
well, you see, I went to, I'm taking a lighting class for stage stuff. I actually got, so if you ever go to a theater, go and look up,
I'm a theater kid, so I got you.
Oh yeah, so you know about the grid at the top. I got to go up to the grid and load weights onto the the curtains and stuff to make
nice.
And then after this, because I am actually in our college's production of Hamlet, right after this, I'm going to have to head right back for rehearsals there. So yeah, that's so that's going.
So are you just like a lighting technician at your school, or is this like you're just doing tech?
I'm a student there. I'm the filthy theater kid, which is funny because through all of high school I was more of a math and science guy, but I think it just boils down to the teachers at this point.
Hey, that's good. I mean, funnily enough, my husband is a lighting tech here in Canada, so funny to hear that you're also doing some lighting stuff over at your school. That's awesome though. Yeah, I mean, I basically spent my day prepping for most of this. I made this cool OneNote page. I did pulled some of the stats that weren't broken, not Jockey having 1000 KDA.
I mean, it feels
making sure to keep up to date, finishing up on some VOD review. And I to be fair, I did expect this to be a 2-0. I didn't know that we were gonna have Shocky, forcing his keyboard through his opponent's mouth. But that's just sometimes that's how it goes. Sometimes you just get Zed Jungle.
Yeah, and speaking of Zed Jungle, sitting 8-0-1, just to emphasize how much of the Jockey show this has been. We saw a slight glimpse of it with Numbers earlier sitting over towers. We do have a slight moment of respite. I mean, yeah, honestly, Riffrail's up now. It doesn't feel like this game has only been 18 minutes long. It's with how fast it has advanced. I expected to look up at the time and see more Baron spawning sometime soon. When I saw
exactly.
I saw a Jockey going over to the Herald/Baron pit, and I thought for a second, oh well, they're just going to grab Baron, but no, that's not the case. It's we're going to have the Shactus, who's probably going to be fine. Yep, walking away now. Siege in the mid lane. Numbers. Yeah,
I mean, they can just keep doing this on repeat. And one of the great things about the Gragas champion in general is typically he's pretty immovable.
Body slam, but no longer has that W. And with so many members around Jockey, hold on, and mid does actually find that kill, does get the shutdown onto the Vladimir.
Oh my god!
But yeah, Jockey's just here. I mean,
Jockey has 2 items right now. What do you do?
20 minutes.
There's
you know how
nothing
you said
can do in this
you know how you
situation.
said the stats were bugged, that Jockey doesn't have 1000 KDA.
He might after this one.
Are we sure that's a bug?
We didn't know that he was gonna pull out a Zed game like this, so my fault for not knowing game. But now they're gonna open inhibitors at 19 minutes. There's no Baron. They haven't even. It hasn't spawned. They're gonna end the game.
Do we get another sub? Do we get our second ever sub 20? Oh wait, the teleport's. They're actually trying.
They're doing it. They're gonna go for it.
You said this was a style game. This would be a stylish end in an absolutely massive way. See if they can't speed run under 20 minutes. All 5 members of the side of Art of War are alive. At least for now. No more minions.
They got one last bottom lane wave here, and the inhibitor's about to respawn on bottom lane.
It is. They're going to push for this. Perhaps a bit ill-advised, though. Jockey's only half health. Walt's low. Death also low. And with how close they are to the fountain, it should be fairly okay. Medshift maybe trying to find a little gank here. We'll find the Shactus out. flash forward from Ordaro.
Finally.
There it is. The Wombo combo will find 3 very quickly. Shut down onto a mid. So not only do they find 2 more kills here, it's exactly what you wanted to. Mediship going to pick out LL Cool J's. Another kill going onto Fireman now. And the Shactus, there's just not much really you can do for the rest of this one. Actually, no, apparently he can. At least the Shactus will be able to get away from this one. But it is the first signs of life from Art of War Esports 20 minutes in here into game 2.
They did it! Yay!
Yeah.
They actually put together like a team fight where, look, we've seen this time and time again from some of our top teams, some of our top players here in the league. They tend to overextend. They like to kind of play without tempo in that sense. So right there, they just said, okay, we're going to keep going. We don't really have a bottom wave to play on, so we're just going to kind of stand here. And if we're looking at this from glass half full for Art of War, you're getting extra gold and a little bit more extra experience because of the super minion waves. However, because you are so far behind and you have absolutely no damage on your team, you cannot wave clear. It takes you so long to be able to push out these waves. So, gonna have to see. It's gonna be the Baron start, and I expect for this Baron to be kind of the linchpin to try to end this game. It's gonna be that last nail in the coffin. Unless Metashift can kind of put together a massive steal.
They'll have to start with something big here. Jockey and Death are out trying to find Ordaro and Metashift, but they're down to half health now. I mean, Metashift is still here. Doesn't have Flash, though, on the Skarner, and without...
Oh, nice job, Death.
It is going to be very well done from Death. Might sacrifice himself, but it will at least barely secure that Baron, and mid will get the kill onto Death, but it, as I said, at the very least does make sure that the Baron does go over to the side of Final Boss Time and does not give a chance at all for Art of War Esports to contest with a potential steer from Metashift. And as we move down now, we should expect yet another Drake going on the side of Final Boss Time as a result.
Let's go. All right, so they get the Baron. Really great job from Death. That is a strong support Death right there. That right there is my support, making sure that enemy jungle cannot steal away the Baron, so they'll grab the Dragon. Looks like they're not going to be playing on this wave, although I don't think they have too many item upgrades that are really going to come through. They're kind of just finishing off components, and this should be the last 2 to 3 minutes of the game in my expectation, just because right now what you're looking at is 2 open inhibitor lanes, a single Nexus turret, and a ton of champions that can really, really easily clear this. Amid has to be so careful, does not have the flash. It is coming up soon.
It will be found out. I mean, wow. Wait, did you say Amid was there? I don't see him.
He is no longer there. He has Vladimir Pool. That Vladimir Pool is actually his state of being currently.
Just yeah, I guess a big pile of blood as we move on a little bit more. I mean, perhaps we'll find a slight pick. Metashift and Ordaro trying to find just about anything. Grasping at straws, though, there's just not much you can really do on the side of Art of War Esports, sitting down now 9k gold. I mean, hasn't it? I mean, the fact that that's them cutting down the gold difference is is a pretty big statement. It's down to 9k now, but without much left. I mean, Amid's back up in just a few seconds, but Baron empowered minions and no more towers. Metashift will try to find way in. Ordaro following up. Will they get the Wombo combo from the side of Fire Mana? It's just not enough, despite things falling exactly in the way that you would want them to in terms of order. But now, I mean, at least Amid will get that kill, but there's just not enough life left in the side of Art of War Esports. And it is a very dominant game, too, from the side of Final Boss Diamond in what we thought was, you know, they were showboating with this draft for sure. Picking Zed jungle in a Diamond League is certainly not something you expect something to see very often. But, I mean, Final Boss Diamond, I don't even know how to expand on that. I mean, do we have any more superlatives for them?
They did really well. I think they did a great job of kind of closing out a lot of the game. They unfortunately, I think, played a little too aggressive in some circumstances. We saw a lot of Shaki actually getting punished, I think specifically in the Gwen game. But this time around, they made sure to play for the bot dive. They made sure to get Shaki his bot camps. And this is yet another instance where playing with winning or really strong laners translates into jungle leads. Because they have a strong bot lane that understands when they want to crash the wave, it makes it so that Shocky can always have priority to try to move in for bottom side camps and steal away that Gromp. When you have a mid laner like LL Cool J who's playing the Jace, making sure that he's gaining priority for his lane, you can make sure that as Gwen, you're able to invade for top side camps like his blue buff, his Gromp, his Wolves. All of these so important kind of small factors feeding into why Shocky is just putting up games and putting up numbers on the board in this series.
Yeah, and it's just continued excellence from Final Boss Diamond here at the end of week 3. But I mean, I think the results really just speak for themselves. There's not much to add other than saying Final Boss. I mean, they very aptly named themselves, at least so far. And I guess with that, we're going to send it out. I mean, everyone have a good night. Thank you for tuning in for everything, and yeah, we'll hopefully see you next week.